Hey, this is Vu, and today I'm going to take a look at how to win on CT Side of Dust2. And there's two main things you want to be doing here, like you want to be doing on T side. First is contesting long as much as possible, and second is buying as many SGs as possible. And since you can't buy them, you want to be picking them up if possible. Otherwise, the M4 will do. And when it comes to contesting long, there's kind of a sequence that most teams will run to try to control it. So you're going to have three players that want to come long early. The first one is going to want to molly inside of long doors, then wait around the corner so someone can't peek with an op and kill you as it's landing, wait for a flash, and then peek out. The second player typically is going to be playing back turned, waiting for the same flash to peek out, and the third player is going to be the one throwing said flash, and he's going to toss a flash right like that, and that flash is just going to blind anybody that's trying to swing out or any crazy business and try and get control of long. Then you can swing out together, try and get these frags, and get a player into pit or any aggressive position. Then, once that molly inside of long doors is down, you toss a smoke so the T's can't know which side of doors you're on, whether you've crossed or not. And from there, you can generally hold long with one player and a quick rotator. And that's why you usually have a late round setup that involves a rifler close here, either pit or close wall or blue bin. You have an opper towards car or game helper, this is often called, trying to control the cat run out. And you have a third player that's either playing up here on platform or playing elevator for the quick rotate over to CT. And given that mid to B is incredibly scary on this map, typically you have this player towards elevator. He can toss some utility down if he can when they're trying to head out. He can try and draw them back, and he can make sure that when the T's are hitting mid to B, if it ever happens, he can be here quickly to either push through a smoke with a flash like that, or to just spam them down, try to support and make sure it's not comfortable for those T's to hit up over to the B side. The question though, when you're holding long, is what do you do when the T's are hard contesting it? There might be a smoke down here on the corner, there might be multiple flashes streaming over, when the T's are contesting it. And one way you can try and deal with that is you can have the second player try and dodge some flashes and then come out and throw that molly. Of course, you can throw it safely, but if they've tossed a smoke down, you can get a little bit out from the corner if you want. Toss that molly there, and with that, you've basically got mollies clogging up most of this area, meaning that flash your team is throwing, he can throw two of them. You can have the third player throw one here and then one off to the side on the left here, and that one's going to land behind you as you're contesting. It won't blind them quite as badly, but it's still about a second of a flash. You swing off of that, and you try and catch these T's that are blind and have nowhere to retreat back to. Now, obviously, they can get wide and they can get lots of different angles. It can still be uncomfortable to contest, but if you're playing in a pug and you have that type of setup, you're probably going to have a good time. If you can't contest long and you've lost it a few times, typically you're going to contest it the first couple times and you lose it or you win it. If you lose it, you head back over to cat as quickly as possible. And the biggest mistake I see people make is that they're going to head back and they're going to play like a player up on platform here and maybe a player on quad or a player on goose, and they're not going to control cat. Look, if you don't have long or cat control, if the T's have both, it's really just impossible to hold on to A. You can't be collapsed on from so many different angles. It's just not possible to consistently hold, and even occasionally holding it's very rare. So you need to be contesting cat. Oftentimes a good way to do so is to try to get aggressive. However, if you were already going for long control, getting aggressive is a bit awkward because they could be already pushed up in middle, and you could be dealing with someone on top of Xbox, which is very awkward. You could be dealing with lots of different angles. So you can consider contesting it, or you can be playing back here, trying to delay as long as possible, and then potentially throwing down some smokes late round to make sure that they can't contest. And oftentimes this will look like two riflers here. Usually you have a rifler holding this angle up right around here, and you have a rifle playing anti-flash in case they flash push through. Then you're going to have the opper, and that's the question mark, because you could have the opper playing an angle like this, but he is vulnerable to the flank. So oftentimes you'll have him either quad holding the cross, or earlier on before he might get pushed back by an opper in pit, he can be playing an angle like this, holding pit and making sure he can catch anybody that's pushing out. But the main idea to keep in mind here is that you can control A with cat control or with long control, but if you have neither, you are completely screwed. As for the mid B side, things get a little bit less clear in this case because oftentimes you're going to want to be double opping on Dust2. You want that op towards car, game helper, and you want that op towards middle as well. However, if you can't afford one, especially in pugs, I think it's probably better to be using the solo op towards the A side because otherwise that type of cat A hit is incredibly tough to deal with. That being said, if you've now got a rifle towards mid, you can't even contest this early. Of course, with an op, you can't contest it forever because they're eventually going to smoke you out, or they could potentially even double peek you or flash peek or something like that and push you off. And re-peeking in the middle, you need a flash to do so, and although you can do that once or twice, it's still not a perfect play, and eventually you're not going to have the nades. But with a rifle, you can't do it at all. So what do you even do in this situation? Dude, why are you watching middle? Why are they up cat? Why didn't you call they were up cat, dude? I don't know, man. I can't peek. I got an M4. Dude, just peek it. Just peek it, man. You don't want the terrorist to push out mid to B and get all these great angles on you, but you can't really contest it. Well, the idea is that you want to try to play a little bit gimmicky from time to time, and that means once or twice you can try and play close up on the doors and play angles that will catch them if they ever get ahead of themselves and walk out on you. Unfortunately, the reality is that leaves your B player essentially on an island, and if they were to walk push B while you're playing something like close mid, you are essentially going to lose the round. But in that realization, you now understand why Dust2 is a fairly awkward map. 2 players is not enough to hold on to A, 2 players is not enough to hold on to B, and thereby there is a little bit of gamble stacking going on. The main thing you want to keep in mind is that late round, you want to be posted up passively trying to get something done if they go mid to B. You don't want to be caught in awkward spots if you can when they're going mid to B, and you definitely don't want to be caught where you're trying to do what a lot of newer players will try to do, which is allow yourself to be isolated, basically one outside of B and one inside B and taken down one by one, or allow yourself to, without really very much utility, be caught in a spot where your opponents can isolate you from both sides. That's really one of the worst case scenarios because there's no spots in B that are comfortably able to hold both angles without being easily traded. The only spot you could think of would be like closet, but you can still be attacked from both sides. Typically what you're going to see find the most success in pugs is doubling up and isolating one side. This can mean a player window and a player doors, and you can try and double up or even triple up with your CT player pushing through at the same time to deal with this side of the attack, and then you can turn around and deal with the other side afterwards. Sometimes this will involve you pushing out of B and taking this down, which I think can be worth it. Usually if there's 5 players alive, a mid B split is 3 players running mid to B and 2 players in tunnels. So in theory, if you got into a 5v2, you should be pretty happy with that, and retaking the bomb site isn't bad. But usually what'll happen is you'll go for this contest, especially you can toss something like a flash out and you can double contest, get a kill or 2 and potentially prevent them from getting too close, and then turn around and deal with the other side together as well. That way you're constantly doubling up and playing as a team instead of being isolated in 1v1s. And that's not to say that sometimes having a player play on the rafters here in the 1v1 or play out towards boxes, it's not to say that this cannot work ever. It's just you're going to find less consistent success with it. The only thing you're really going to find that will never work is if you have your mid player sit around in this type of area, get swung on and traded. You're almost always going to lose the round if you get caught in transition like this. At the end of the day, this map is fairly complicated, and I'll leave you with one last thing. If you're a mid player, throwing this sort of flash is incredibly important if your opponents are rushing B and you're not inside. Flashes that land either in front of this box or bounce off of this back wall and land here. These flashes won't blind your teammate in the bomb site, but will effectively blind your opponents as they're trying to push in, which means you can buy some time for your teammate to get, maybe he'll get one entry for himself, hide, your flash comes in and he'll find another, and you can buy that time for your teammate to survive and get those kills and win you the round. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope this helped. You think maybe I should tell them they could buy the SG on my Patreon? I mean, I don't want to be misleading, but obviously people know you can't actually, right? You're getting demo reviews, they're getting content like consistently, they're supporting the creator, right? They know, I mean, get SG skins, I guess. I mean, patreon.com/VooCSGO. I giveaways once in a while, maybe. I don't know.